Hello, my name is Braund, and I will be doing my presentation over child abuse and disabled children. The point of this presentation is to show why special needs children are at a higher risk of abuse and what society can do to help lower the abuse. Well, you might say, aren't all children at risk of abuse? Well, research shows that deaf and disabled children experience an increased risk of abuse compared to their non-disabled peers. The reason is that it's harder to disclose abuse and there isn't a delay in disclosure. In the study, professionals seek deaf and disabled children and conduct interviews. Interviews were combined with professional notes done by the interviewer. The interviewer wanted to make sure everything was authentic. From the findings in the research, it indicated disabled children lack awareness of abuse and had fear of consequences of disclosure and difficulties communicating abuse in a coherent way. Here is an example from the research. A girl didn't know how to verbalize her words. To ask for help, her behavior wasn't coming off as distressed. Another thing that delays disclosure is self-worth. That disabled children will question the abuse, equal treatment, and freedom from abuse, and many feel a strong sense of blame. Awareness. When disclosure occurs, many deaf and disabled children feel more comfortable making disclosure to another child, which makes it harder for the fact that there is no follow-up. A study conducted with 12 teenagers with learning disabilities found that they had limited awareness of issues related to sex, consent, contraception, and safe sex and personal safety. Another example of how disabled children are at a higher risk of abuse is because parents can see adults' attention as supportive, providing relief from the parent. This creates social isolation, which helps maintain behavior that is abusive and avoid detection. Thoughts from mothers. Disabled children may be abused by relatives, neighbors, and families and friends. In a study conducted on how mothers with disabled children react, 14%, 8 out of the 60 mothers, believe that the predator could be a stranger. Let this next sentence sink in. Many mothers in the study wish their children would die before their death, in order to prevent the disabled children from possible danger, when in fact many of the mothers said this: I wish my baby would die before I die, because after my life, who would look after her? A mother of a disabled girl. My girl should die before I die. No one should abuse or exploit her. She should not be a burden to anyone after me. This was the best solution they thought of for their disabled child. All mothers in the study, 60 out of 60, said they punished their child. About 46%, around 28 mothers out of the 60 of the mothers admitted to physical punishment. Mothers preferred using physical punishment for boys, and girls they preferred to use verbal punishment. It shows that gender plays a major role in considering abuse. It is not fair to beat the child, the mother of a disabled child. Beating boys for wrongdoing is not a crime. It is necessary, a mother of a disabled boy. Without punishment, how will I control my child? I don't know of any other means than punishment. Healthcare providers and their role to stop abuse. Neglect is the most reported form of child maltreatment in the United States. Healthcare providers can recognize abuse, suspicion of abuse, and other forms of abuse. Healthcare providers are also tasked with the responsibility of talking with other medical facilities and treatment for disabilities. Healthcare providers are mandated to report cases of physical and neglect to authorities. Many parents struggle with disciplining their child, and many do not understand the correct method to behavioral actions. The American Academy of Pediatrics strongly opposes the use of physical punishment in children. Spanking, especially in infants, may be harmful and result in physical injuries, especially on sensitive areas such as the face. Here it is an example of a parent not having the correct knowledge needed to meet the needs of their disabled child. Case 9. 6-year-old girl, medical history, no feeling in her foot, and paralyzed. Her father was helping her bathe. He seated her in her bathtub seat and seated up the water of the bucket and placed it by her foot, not realizing the bucket was so hot. The child did not withdraw from pain after her foot was submerged in the hot water, because she was paralyzed and did not perceive any pain. The burn appeared to be so bad that it was a 3rd-degree burn and was rushed to the ER. In this case, the child was not able to provide medical history due to her developmental delay, making the diagnosis rather difficult in considering her medical condition. However, neglect is a serious condition in this case, and that the father should have been more careful when warming up the water and placing her foot in the bucket of water to wash it. This case was reported to Child Protective Services with a concern of neglect resulting in serious injury. Abuse was not ruled out in this case. So, what can we do? Well, professionals need to obtain history from a child alone and from the caregiver separately. From a nonverbal child, it's harder. Questions can range from asking about the event that led to the injury, details about falling, supervision, and the child's well-being before the incident. This problem is very unresearched. The research suggests improvement in services that help children not to be vulnerable. Here are some examples from the research conducted. Research reduced isolation and therefore vulnerability. Also, educating everyone that works or helps disabled children. Training in communication and preventive work. An assessment of children's needs as a result of medical illness and disability helps determine the needs of a child and the challenges facing the family in securing the needs. It helps stop abuse from occurring and stops the stigma around blaming the parent. The bottom line is that to help disabled children, professionals and adults need to shift the burden from the child when talking about abuse. It is the adult's job to make these kids feel safe and to make them feel they are worth helping. Teaching more professionals and others about abuse and signs. Here are my citations. Thank you very much.